Hello people of the internet, it's your boy Skinny Penis, back from the dead, back from the underground, back for more. It's time to already make a video about LegMod Ven, since I have discovered this new abomination of a legendary module yesterday. And I already had like a very interesting game in it. So, obviously we're following up with more videos in the future. I took a little pause, I mean also content is slowly but surely wearing out. Yeah, also essentially making a video every day is kind of time intensive. But in any case, LegMod Ven has been released on Thursday or Friday, whatever you, I think, yeah, Thursday. And what does it do? Well, it goes into concealment slot and it gives you 2 more smokes, and the main part of it is it gives you 55% smoke cooldown reduction, meaning the smoke that is usually on cooldown for 3 minutes, which is kind of like the balance aspect of these Italian smokes on cruisers. I mean, on Regulo they could give it fast recharge. On Venezia or Napoli it was kind of needed that it was 3 minutes. Otherwise you have too much, or the tool is too potent for early game permakite, especially like in competitive. Like you could permasmoke and kite and never get killed for like 6-7 minutes, no matter what's being sent at you. Or you could just perma push with a smoke and you couldn't really be sussed out. But now this issue isn't really present anymore on Venezia. You can have 5 smokes with Superintendent, which you should also go for, because essentially it's only 4 smokes. The quintessence of this LegMod is they apparently forgot that Lighthouse specs on Venezia exist and are actually really potent because of the smoke, but they were always a bit of a problem to make work because of the smoke cooldown and the amount that you have. You only have 3. Now you have 5 with essentially 77-second cooldown if you run the LegMod and the, what is it, 5% high caliber flag. But because you run a Lighthouse build, like full Lighthouse is the way to go essentially, you have to use the first smoke to get into position, which I did here for example. Like you couldn't just randomly cross in there and turn flat broadside to all of these people while you're spotted. Now you have to like use your first smoke for that, which isn't a problem because as you can see the smoke is already off cooldown in the next 50 seconds, which is quite retarded. Why did I say it's an abomination? I mean, it doesn't necessarily change the fact that Venezia is a selfish piece of shit cruiser that doesn't bring hydro, doesn't bring radar. Essentially you need to have a destroyer in your division. Otherwise, if you play it solo, you're just relegated into a damage farmer most of the games because you have to hope that your random mates, random carrier, random destroyer so is providing spotting, or your, what is it, your radar cruiser radars at the right time. So, yeah. Essentially that gameplay doesn't change unless you play with a DD. And also the LegMod will most likely be played with Lighthouse specs, because it's already like 12-4 concealment on a Ven or 12-6 concealment. If you play full conceal, then you drop the concealment slot or module, which means you're like down to like 40, 13-8, 40, 14, something like that. So at that stage you can essentially just go full Lighthouse too, because then you at least get the top grade gunner proc all the time and you get 10% SAP damage too, which is essentially an 18% DPM buff on it, which is kind of needed since you can't really set fires. So like even if battleships mis-spec their ship without fire prevention and shit, you can't really capitalize on it. You can't really capitalize on DCPs because you just don't have HE. So given the fact that there's a lot of, like, for example, super BBs like Ganan over here, I don't have scalable damage against them. I have to literally DPM them down with alpha. And the AP on it obviously sucks too, so yeah, don't even try shooting AP on broadsides. It's like sap. So yeah. What you can see here is like you can go pretty close to the cap behind your destroyer in the beginning, turn out. And you can like just turn it around all the time, because you always have a smoke ready again. There's like no real smoke cooldown. If you just plan ahead what direction you're pointed, like you have to be safe after you smoke kind of, and then it doesn't take too long for the next smoke to come up. which either allows you to stay alive longer in kite or push harder. And that's like really the issue with the ledge mod. Wargaming supposedly says that the legendary modules are offering an alternative gameplay style, which is absolute horseshit on Venezia ledge mod. It doesn't really fucking make sense because the ship was played 95 to like 99% of the times as a perma AFK piece of shit kiter in base full HP. And the only thing the ledge mod does is it cucks your concealment more, which will make people play even more passive, but it gives you the smoke 20 million times per game, which means you will never be really killable in kite and base. Like, you don't die. Like, they just made the gameplay that it already provided, or that most people choose to play in, because, like, how do you play aggressive, solo for example, or without coordination when you don't have hydro or radar yourself? So yeah, essentially people just played it like that already. Now the ledge mod just, I don't know, solidifies that kind of gameplay for most people. The thing is, you can play way more aggressive with it. The problem is just you need hands and you need an understanding of the game, and you probably need a DD in the division. But then, since I already played like 9 games with it, there were 2 or 3 games where you can literally just straight up nose and run into the enemy base. And the amount of smokes you can pop while kiting away is quite disgusting. As you can see, we already have the second smoke down. I could sit in the middle of the cap. Obviously, you can't push through here. Like, that's not a thing. I mean, Bison was already fucking dementia pushing for some damage on a Hanover here, which is brain damaged. Because there is a Yodo and a Satsuma just turning circles in their base on the right. So I can't cross the rock on my right in towards their base too. Like, I can't chase this Marseille or Marlboro, because I'm always going to be spotted with my Lighthouse. I have more spotting range than actual gun range. Now I have gun range is spotting range because I procced Sansonetti with the kill, which is really important, by the way, that you run Sansonetti. If you have him, definitely run him on Venezia. It's like the original ship they balanced him around, or the original ship that they nerfed because they brought out Sansonetti. That's like the original Ven was way better. But with the ledge mod, that you can now run a Lighthouse build way more efficient and way more safe, means that you can kinda reach the old Venezia levels again. I mean, sure, they nerfed the maneuverability with the rudder shift hard too, which isn't really that big of an issue, to be honest, on Venezia. It's still very maneuverable, nimble, low in the water. But the main thing is, the original Ven on release had like 3 to 4 second faster reload. Like, the DPM was nuts on it. When you procced Sansonetti and you had some AR kicking, you went way below 10-second reload, I think, or if I remember correctly. Like, the original Ven was a 150 to 160 easy average damage ship while you don't have HE, which essentially means you do more damage than HE range cruisers, or you did. You know, do it now. You do it again, but you didn't do it for a long time. That's why it was so fucking useless. The original reload allowed you to do 160 average essentially, in a very stealthy and safe cruiser with SAP Alpha Strike pens, which means you're also griefing heals, you know. Yeah, I went to the island, wanted to block the people from the mid. That's obvious. It's mountain range, the map is trash if your team gives up one entire flank, and that's exactly what like happened here. Like, this is completely empty, so essentially we're forced to be camping here, and the problem is the B cap is obviously easier to play from the other side. The biggest problem here is really that Bison was just looking for the next run on the battleships. Like, why does he go up into the Satsuma and the into the Marlboro instead of just going towards B, killing the Grozovoi, winning us the game? I don't know. I mean, I talked to him about it, but whatever. He saw the problem. Like, fucking just essentially playing the minimap according to the enemy BB position. So yeah, I can move out here again. Obviously, mountain range I can't really push. There's 2 Novosibirsk idiot testers there. Their improved pen angles and arcs and pen don't really allow me to go into the middle. That's just suicide, really. My battleships, as you can see here, the Jean Bart, Hanover, and Patrie, are really passive. So what I'm doing here is like I kited out from the rock to get unstuck from there, and then I'm probably going to turn it around, or I'm going to turn it around and run towards where Evo is, and then obviously trying to get B back. Hopefully not everyone in my team keeps running at them. Sadly, the Stalin and the Jean Bart will just both run at it and die. The game is gonna go forever, you will see. But yeah, so they nerfed Venezia hard. It wasn't in the game for long. I think they nerfed it multiple times in a row because it was still too strong. Back in the days, obviously, there were also like way less of the cracked destroyers, cruisers, and battleships. You could probably rebuff Venezia now. I mean, not with the ledge mod now, surely not. Like, if you give it a 1, 2, or 2, like even 2-second reload buff now, the thing would become toxic because of the ledge mod, which is kind of the buff that I mean here. Lighthouse builds essentially completely and utterly working now, because you get an 8% reload reduction, which is like 1.5 seconds, then you get 10% sap damage, so you get essentially 18% DPM increase, which is getting you back to the original Venezia level, kind of. Still not as good. I think they nerfed it really by like 4 seconds or some shit. It was big time nerfs multiple times in a row. So yeah, what you're going to see though is the Venezia is going to be one of the easiest cruises to play from kite now. It's going to be way easier than other HE spammers, which means there is also going to be more people playing Venezia. And they're all going to still play it in kite. They're not going to try to figure out aggressive ways to use this fast smoke cooldown. They're not going to try and figure out how to be, use not only the smoke cooldown but the smoke itself to be closer to enemies more often and be nose in. They're going to just use it to be perfectly fine in kite for the rest of their miserable fucking World of Warships career. It's what Venezia's always did, and it's what Venezia's will do. By the way, here you can see the Novosibirsk. I'm angled up for the back turrets, and he just shits on me. The thing is, like, also, like, I don't know what the fuck this is, but since Venezia can pen 50mm, with sap, you can actually cuck them pretty hard. That would be the same if there's like a Stalin or a Moskva. You can put a lot of damage on them actually, because you pen their deck and side plating. But yeah, I mean the HP pool you can see is massive on that thing. So it's like, it's gonna take me a while. It's like 70k on that guy up there, as you can see. That's a lot of salvos, because also like sap always has the issue of saturation. Since you don't have like 100%, like fire damage can't be saturated, it's always the same damage. So yeah, since you can only go through alpha strike, meaning the saturation kicks way harder on Venezia, you're gonna have an issue most of the times. I can't cross really into the middle because of the Novosibirsk. Essentially, I'm going to wait out until the Novosibirsk is dead on the rock. I mean, we have a carrier, we have battleships. I even shot the guy until he reversed behind the rock. So I'm trying to cuck the Grozovoy maybe if he peeks, or cuck the Ohio and the Novosibirsk up top, and waiting essentially until the Novosibirsk on the rock is dead. The moment he's dead, I can go into the middle. I think my carrier takes ages though to get him out, even though I also shot him for like 30k. But yeah, just popping spotter plane. And with Venezia, it's always like, you need ships that you can penetrate like everywhere. You penetrate most ships everywhere, but there's some ships that you really don't want to fight. Like Russian BBs are probably the biggest menace for this ship. Like, you don't do anything against Russian battleships, especially Kreml and Uchakov. Like, if you play against an Uchakov in a Venezia, you can essentially leave the flank. You can like shoot him twice or 3 times maybe if you're really cheesy on the superstructure to get the unsaturated damage. After that, there's essentially no part on a ship you necessarily pen. Superstructure is gonna saturate way more. Like, you already suffer through saturation on the hull, nose, ass, hull, and superstructure. Like, everything saturates, but you can at least pen it on most ships. On the Russian BBs, for example, you can't even pen the hull because it's 60mm and you have like 56, 57 sap pen. So it doesn't matter what you do, you don't pen that. Same with like German BB side plating. You should always aim for the superstructure or the deck, never for the side plating. It's kind of important that you understand how much you penetrate with the sap, so you know where to aim for or what to aim for. Because if the plating is higher than like 50, let's assume it's 57, whatever, sap pen, if it's higher, you will never going to pen it. It doesn't matter how flat he is. It doesn't. It works like HE essentially. It doesn't matter how flat. If the plating is too thick, you don't pen. So yeah, I'm going to reverse here. The Novosibirsk is dead, as you can see. I'm also unspotted, and then I'm going to use my last smoke to cap. So essentially, even though I had a Lighthouse spec and it was a heavy 5BB matchmaking with Marseille, with two Novosibirsk, with a Satsuma, Hanover and shit, I could still just be fine most of the time. Just because I have 4 times smoke, pretty much for free. And yeah, I also figured it happens occasionally, and it's very nice. you can cap a lot. You have 5 smokes, fast off cooldown. If there is a mid-game situation where DDs are dead or there's very few DDs in the game, you can just sit in the middle of the map and cap it out. Like you can now. It's not like this big trade-off anymore with a 3-minute cooldown for your smoke and you only have 3 charges. No, you have fucking 5 and your cooldown is barely anything compared to what it was before. I mean, 55% reload and then like 5 flags, so it's minus 60%. The original Ledge mod was even worse. Like when they announced it, it was what, 70 or 80? No, it was like 70% reload reduction or some shit. Like you had the smoke up under a minute with the high caliber flag too. As you can see here, I waited a bit because the smoke doesn't cover the entire cap duration, so I waited a bit and then popped the smoke. And yeah, now I can cap. Evo is in C. We're clawing the game back somehow. I mean, our team was just running it for free. We have to kill people now, essentially, or like ships. But yeah, even here you can see the limitations of Venezia in the entire game. I was very, very like I tried to be as close to the enemy as possible without essentially giving them my ship. But still, like it's very kite orientated. You can't just like I couldn't just run at them in this kind of scenario. The Novosibirsk could get into could get into range with his radar to my smoke. The battleships, both of them that were still in base, can overmatch me. I don't have that much HP anyway, so even like the carrier strikes, like Nakimov isn't really a nice ship to play against in a Venezia, since I'm very, very long. I'm an elongated boat. But yeah, now essentially like Evo sadly died to the carrier because it's some Johnny Horta, some piece of shit Gurkha fucklord that grieves around the Nakimov. So yeah, he fucked Evo out of C. If Evo would have been able to cap C, we would have won that game, by the way. Like if you will see what happens in this. Look at this damage, man. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I could have turned out a bit more, but the thing is, we need kills. Like we need kills fast. So I have to keep all my guns on target as long as possible. Yeah, but yeah, essentially their carrier wins the game late game. That's not to anyone's surprise. But we're already on 300k nearly in Venezia, which is crazy because I checked the leaderboards today morning because I was like, the damage I'm ending up here with is kind of fucking high for Venezia because you don't have HE. Like you can't get demented 150 200k fire damage in Super BB matchmaking. Like sure, there is more HP now, way more HP. So even Venezia does more damage, but high damage numbers on Venezia, like 350k or more, is nearly impossible because you don't have scalable damage and you don't rely on RNG. You have to forcefully go through Alpha Strike on the sap, or I mean you one-shot a cruiser with AP, whatever the fuck not. So it's like my highest damage in Ven ever, even though I have like nearly 200 games. And I played most of these games when the Venezia was still unnerved. As you can see here, like we were on 999 one time, now we're on 990 again nearly, and I'll kill this guy. So yeah, we keep the game running, but since we don't have C, it's a problem. If I said like if you would have kept C somehow, some way, because the carrier forgot to decap him or spot him, whatever the fuck not, and we would have gotten that cap, we would have actually won this. Sadly, my Stalingrad is AFKing on the A line, and my Nakimov is someone on I, whatever the fuck, instead of pushing in. But I mean, that's just random mates being shit. That's the thing with Venezia. Like, you have to rely heavily on your teammates being good too, and like, Evo and me were like the only ones who tried to kill Novosibirsk and then get both caps back, and the others were like doing, I don't know, fucking paint and art sessions in A5 on the border with a Stalingrad. The man is like even nearly on 40k HP still. I don't fucking know. Yeah, in any case, we're going to end up with like I think 346k damage here, which is like one of the highest on EU, and all of the other high damage numbers on other people I would assume are also from the time when Venezia was unnerved and had like 3-4 second faster reload essentially. So yeah, that was like the upper limit, really, 350k for Ven, always. And now I have played like what 9 Ledgemod Ven games where you get back the DPM, more HPs in the game, and you have the smoke, which allows you to do way more crazy shit. And actually, I get in the cap here, by the way. Never mind. So yeah, that I already end up with this kind of damage number that fast is really fucking stupid. And the ledge mod is definitely not a choice anymore, really, for randoms. It's a must-have. It's unironically a must-have. Because in randoms you don't really care about your concealment on Ven. Like, Venezia is fucking god-awful unless you're farming people to shit. And always have a shot ready with high alpha, whatever the fun you're kiting. And you're just way safer in that with a Lighthouse spec and now the ledge mod. So here goes the spec. It's I think it's even the first time I actually present you a Lighthouse spec. It's unusual for me because I don't like them, but as I said, like since the Ven has very like low range anyway, since you run it with reload, you're not spotted like from the moon. You're not like 20 km spotted. It's only 17 something, and the smokes, as said, like you can still reach really aggressive spots early game with the smoke. Like you don't pop it the moment you're spotted, but you pop it like 5 to 10 seconds after, depending on what you shoot. So what I think is important on this spec is, first of all, Sansonetti is kind of mandatory on Italian ships. I say it over and over. Priority target is really, really key. I think it gives you a better understanding as to when to pop the smoke, and it also gives you an understanding as to when you have to run away, because you don't, or when to pop the smoke in general, because you don't really have the ability to ever go dark. Like that doesn't exist anymore with this spec. So yeah, and I'm also not a Lighthouse connoisseur, so whatever. Other than this, you go heavy sep and top grade on the left. AR obviously, superintendent for the additional smoke and heal. That's very important too. Also, like it's not only the 5th smoke, but if you have 5 smokes with that fast of a cooldown, you're most likely also able to disengage so often that you will use all 4 heals if you come to it. Like if the game goes that long. As survivability expert still. And then I have turret traverse. I mean, you need ammo switch. In case, like on Venezia with Sansonetti, improved ammo switch, you kind of need it, so you have the ability to one-shot light cruisers with AP. I mean, the AP sucks in general, but you can citadel flat citadels like Des Moines or Moskva very handsomely still, and you can fuck light cruisers obviously if they're flat, and you kind of want it for that. You could drop, I figured it, I didn't really see it when I just randomly spec'd it yesterday. You could theoretically drop the turret traverse and the torpedo speed for the 2-point consumable enhancement, because it gives you 10% more smoke, which synergizes well with those smokes obviously, because they're like, you can get the Sansonetti proc, you have the captain skill, you get additional 5 seconds I think roundabout on the smoke when your Sansonetti is already procced, so that's pretty cool. It's not mandatory, because you essentially use the smoke to cover the heal cooldown or push unspotted or kite or like disengage unspotted and gamer turn, and yeah, sometimes you use them for farming, I guess. So yeah, I said like the smoke also for farming. Other HE cruisers are less safe than Venezia, because other HE cruisers like Hindenburg also only have 17 km range, or Goliath Reload has like less than 17 km range, and so you're really close to battleships that overmatch you essentially everywhere, and none of these cruisers have the ability to go dark on demand in Kite. So yeah, that's why people will play Ledge Mod when like fucking idiots all the time. Um, those are the modules. Everything is essentially basic. You obviously go dispersion, prop mod, and reload. I think range is just completely unnecessary. I mean, if you really want to, you can spec either I don't know what it is. It's either the spotter plane captain skill or the spotter plane module. I think the coal module is also really good. You can spot the coal module, and you can use your spotter plane a lot more for increased range, which is fine already because you're only going to use it for farming. Yeah, then you go concealment slot is now the ledge mod slot, and then on the flags, don't forget to obviously take like speed heal flag, but also the smoke flag, which is 10% for free. You should definitely run it. Yeah, so that's it for ledge mod van. Definitely, like if you compare it to the Haaland ledge mod, which was released at the same time, uh, I mean, I don't know. They say it's supposedly it's supposed to offer an alternative gameplay style. I think the only ledge mods that really apply to that is like, I mean, Haru ledge mod is kind of nice. Des Moines ledge mod is kind of nice. Um, the Clab ledge mod is probably the perfect example for a ledge mod that offers a completely different playstyle. Like that is really interestingly designed. Otherwise, the ledge mods are okay-ish. Some of them, like gearing ledge mod, is kind of nice, and it's also a bit different to the normal gearing, I guess. But this one is just straight up an upgrade, and it doesn't offer a different kind of playstyle. It just reinforces the already existing playstyle and buffs it to insane levels, hilarious levels. It's just gonna be permakite ledge mod vans all the time that you can't really push because they go dark 5 times on your ass in like 6 minute time or something. I don't know. Yeah. So Haaland ledge mod obviously useless, but that's mostly because the fucking ship, the platform on it is god awful, but the ledge mod itself is also trash. This one here, fucking nuts. Like it's actually demented. Not for solo gameplay really, I already mentioned that. You should probably div up with some Smaland or DD for spotting, and I mean you can obviously assist him really well now, because you can just spam the smokes to stay close to him or go close to him in the beginning, and you don't really have that 3 minute cooldown downside anymore. So yeah, if you have a brain and if you have hands, it offers actually great ways of playing aggressive now, even with a Lighthouse spec. Like that's really interesting for me because if people abandon a flank and shit, you can just like run up their asses now. Sadly, most people won't do that, so yeah. My guess is they nerfed this ledge mod in a while because it's not going to be a choice anymore. It's going to be people just spamming it because, first of all, not that many people play Venezia anymore. It's mostly the perma-passive kiters anyway that enjoy the ship because it was already really fucking AFK and safe, and they're obviously gonna love it now. So all of these people that spam Venezia will only spam it with ledge mod, my guess. So it's also really easy to get. You just have reset one double line and you have it. Yeah, but yeah. That's it for ledge mod, Van. And I guess I see you for the next video, boys. Adios.